Start the record here. Okay. And basically to cover how it's done, um, most of the info, you can see most of the pictures and stuff on my Facebook pages, and I'll post links and all that stuff underneath the video when it's done. But I've got basically show there step by step for the most part how I went about doing it. What I do is I start out with a body double. You can use a mannequin, or a lot of people use duct tape dummies, but duct tape dummies are hard to sculpt on because they're kind of soft, so you have to solidify it somehow. But I've got a fiberglass body double here that's pretty close to my actual body size. And it's a nice hard surface that holds a lot of weight, so it allows me to put a lot of clay on it. And as you can see in the pictures, I basically sculpted it all out, sculpted all the pieces individually. I used Chavant NSP Medium. You can order from Chavant online. I'll tell you where you get distributors where you can order from. And, well, actually, I should backtrack, because the first thing you have to do is you have to get your reference materials for all the reference stuff, which you can kind of see over here, which I'm not really supposed to be showing, but that's such a little low-res image, I don't think I'll get in trouble for that. I made a deal with Microsoft and 343 Industries and my friend Colby Jukes that actually designed the Didact. I talked to them and made a deal with them to get all the reference images from the game, because it's not a playable character in the game, so you can't really rip the files out and get the stuff you need. So I made a deal with them, and they sent me all the high-res images they had, full 360 scans and stuff of the characters. So that's really how I was able to make the suit as detailed and accurate as I did, because I had really, really good reference material. And that's important whenever you're working on anything. You've got to have as much reference material as you can. If the action figure had came out when I was working on this, I probably would have got that, gotten the action figure then to be able to use as a reference also. Because that's even though the McFarlane figure it's really accurate, it's not completely accurate, because they have to adapt it to make it into an action figure. Okay, when you're using sculpting clay, is it an air dry clay? What makes it different from other clays? The Chavant it's an oil-based clay. It does not dry out in the air, so it gives you unlimited working time. Like the clay I used on this project is still good. I can, except for what gets contaminated with bits of plaster or whatever in it, I can reuse it. So it's a little bit different to work with. Every clay is different. The Chavant, the oil-based clays, usually take a little bit longer to work your sculpts because they're a little bit harder. They don't work as easily as, like, say, a water-based clay, like a wet clay, which you can do, like you watch Face Off, and you see them do these sculpts, full-body sculpts in, like, a day or 2 days. Well, that's because they're using a water-based or a wet clay. It's really soft, it's really quick, it's easy to work with, but that's the catch, is that you have to work really fast with it. I mean, you can cover it up with plastic and spray it with water, but you're kind of limited on your time that you have to work with it, because it is a water-based clay and it's going to dry out on you. So you've got to work really fast. And it's a little bit different when you go to molding. When you're using water-based clay, it's a little bit harder to mold with the silicones and things to make really long-term, good, durable molds, because the water-based clay doesn't really work that well with the silicones and that type of thing. So that's another reason why I like to go with the Chavant Medium. This is the first time I worked with Chavant Medium. I worked with lots of other oil-based clays, but not Chavant. And I have to say, it's really good. It's like I said, it's difficult on the front end. It takes a long time to get your basic sculpture blocked out because it's so stiff. I have to take the clay, and basically I take old pizza boxes and I line them with foil, and I cut the clay up into chunks, and I put it in my oven on warm, and I let it warm up so that it gets the clay soft. And when it's soft, it's pretty easy to work with. And then as it cools down to room temperature, it hardens up. So in a way, it's good because it's very stiff, and most of this Didact was sort of mechanical sculpture, so there's a lot of symmetry and a lot of hard angles and edges. So it worked really well for that, because it's easy to sculpt and carve away to get those hard edges and lines in it that you need. So it's different clays are suitable for different projects. And this one worked. This clay worked pretty good with what I needed to do, so I was pretty happy with the way it came out. So basically, after I sculpted it all out, going off the reference images, I'd sculpt one section at a time, because sculpting a full suit from head to toe It can be done. A lot of times they do that when they're making movie suits and you're pressed for time, but I want to do it section by section. That way, you know, I can sculpt out a section, cast it, mold it, and not have to worry about any drippage of the molds or anything getting on the rest of the sculpture. So I sculpted it out in sections and pieces and cast and molded each one individually, as you can see on my photos on my Facebook page. So basically I make the sculpture out of clay, and then once the clay is done and I've got it all set and sculpted the way I want, then I make a silicone jacket on it. I make a silicone coating on it. So basically what I do is I take the sculpture, which actually I have, let me get my sculpture here. I still have the head sculpt from the helmet. And this shows you how good this clay is, even though it's really dusty from sitting here so long. This is the head sculpt I did about 4 months ago. And even after molding, the clay is still pretty well intact. Like I say, other than being full of cat hair and dust, the sculpture is still in pretty good shape. You know, I may have to refine and clean it up a little bit where it got a few little nicks and dings in it. And then I could basically remold it again and make a second mold off of it. Like say my first mold wears out, I could make a backup mold. If I was producing these to sell, that's what I do. I'd make several molds, several copies of the molds. That way it would be longer before the molds would wear out on me. I could have backup ones. But you can see the clay is still, and it's still soft. I mean, it's still, it can still be worked and sculpted and shaped. But that's one of the benefits of this Silicone is that it's, when it gets cold, like room temperature or a little bit below room temperature, it gets really, really hard. So it makes it it really handles the molding process well. Like I said, it's still, with a few little nicks and dings, it's still intact, in really good shape. So, you know, with a water-based clay, basically when you demold it, it sticks all in there, and the sculpt is ruined. It's completely gone. So that's one of the benefits of it. And so basically what I do is I take this piece here, like say this is the sculpt and it's finished. Then I take silicone, and for this I used Rebound 25, which here's some right here. From Smooth On, Rebound 25. It comes in 2 parts, an A and a B. And you can find that at smoothon.com at their website, or at Reynolds Advanced Materials. And it's a 2-part. It's pretty easy, idiot proof. You don't really need too many scales or be too high-tech about you know, making sure the measurements is right. It's just a 1-to-1 mix, and it makes basically like a paste, syrupy type, depending on how much thicker or thinner you put in it. And then you paint that on to the sculpture. You just paint it over. And for this is a pretty simple. This is a 1-piece. For this helmet, I did a 1-piece glove mold, which is basically just. I basically just painted silicone over the whole thing with no seams or no lines. On some of the other parts, like especially the collar piece up at the top there, if you look at my Facebook page, you can see I had to do multi-piece molds where they're, you know, pretty complex. There's a lot of undercuts and weird shapes, so I had to break it down into different sections and make dividers in the silicone. But for this one, it was pretty straightforward. A helmet like this is no real undercuts too much, except around the chin, so it's pretty simple to do. And this side, basically, I paint the whole thing over. It's called a glove mold because it fits like a glove. It's a one-piece mold, 1-piece silicone mold, and it covers the whole thing. And I painted on probably about a 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch thick, depending on how. You don't have to make it that thick, but it depends on how thick you, how durable you want it, how heavy duty you want it. And again, there's pictures of all this, detailing it on my Facebook, so you can get a better idea of what it looks like in the different stages. I'm going to open this mold up and I can show you what the silicone jacket looks like. And this is the same basic process for all the different sections on the suit, on the body. All the different armor sections were done pretty much the same way. Because some were a little bit more complex than this one, some were more simple than this one. And there's literally hundreds of videos on YouTube that show you how to mold, just the way that I did this. You can see people doing it. And I also have, there's I've got dozens of hours of raw video when I was making this, all on my YouTube channel and here on my Ustream channel, that show show me working, building it as I was doing it. Now this actually has a helmet still in there because I'm working on the helmets for one I'm sending to Microsoft to 343 to put in their office, and one I'm sending to Child's Play charity auction. So there's actually a helmet in here, so it's going to be a little bit more difficult to open up than it would be normally. Let me get a screwdriver to pry this open with. I'll just start with a project like this. Glass work, and so switch up and Didact. Yeah, actually, before I did glass work, I actually did this kind of thing. I actually did special effects and makeup. Since before I was at a high school, I mean, I started doing this. I always was into it. And I actually went to school in California after I graduated high school. I went to Joe Glasgow Makeup Institute and learned a bunch of stuff there. Worked on a bunch of independent, low-budget films, stuff out there in California. Here we go. Okay, and here you can see underneath this is what the silicone glove mold looks like. It's just like a pink, it's basically a pink rubber. If I can get it out. Come on. There we go. And there's what it looks like, basically. Just paint the rubber over the whole thing, over the sculpt, and then when it sets, it cures and turns into hard rubber, and then basically it's just peeled off the sculpture. You know, you just fold up the edge and you just peel it off, and then you got your mold. Now, that's kind of a flexible, soft, squishy thing, and it won't hold its shape. So in order to keep this rigid and keep it secure, you've got to make a mother mold or a mother shell for it, which is what these are fiberglass. And again, the pictures are on my Facebook page to show how it's done. But after you paint the rubber on the sculpt, and it's on there, then you actually lay a fiberglass shell over it. And this is your support shell. That basically holds it in place, keeps it from flopping around, so you keep it the right shape and the right size when you pour your material in. Now, after your molds are made and your molds all put together like I just showed, then you use what I use for all this suit. This is mostly all this hard part is made out of Smoothcast 300. This is also from Smooth On, another idiot-proof two-part system, one part A, one part B. It turns into basically a liquid plastic, and it's naturally white, but I bought a tint, So Strong tint, also made by Smooth On. Put a couple drops in each batch, and it turns it whatever color you mix in. So then basically it's slush casted from that point. All the pieces were all slush casted. I mix small batches of the resin, pour it in here, slush it around. Again, there's videos of me doing that on my pages and on my profiles and stuff. And slush it around and keep adding layer after layer after layer until it gets as thick as I want. And then, of course, it solidifies inside. As you can see there, there's one in there now that I'm not going to struggle with to get out because it is a little bit difficult to pull it out. To make it easier, if I cut it, I could cut a seam in this mold, and then it would pull out, and I could pull it out really easy. but then I'd have a seam line that would be in the resin I'd have to clean up and go back and clean up. So I prefer to fight with a little bit more and have no seam lines at all and have a perfect smooth cast rather than have to go back and clean that up and patch it and fix it. So anyway, once that's done and I would fight and pull this out, then I would end up with a piece that looked like this. And here's one of the helmets that I'm making. This is either going to be the one for Child's Play or for Microsoft. And it's just basically a raw cast of the helmet. It's probably a little bit, let me check my settings here. Probably got it bleeding out a little bit too much. Let me turn the light down on it a little bit. There we go, that's a little bit better. Now you can see a little bit better. Yeah, so there's the raw piece, untrimmed. You see it's got some flash and stuff around the edges that I have to go back with a Dremel tool and kind of sand off and trim off. And then the helmet it's pretty smooth because I worked a long time on the head sculpt making it smooth, but I'll go back with the sandpaper and sand it and smooth it down real good. And then it gets primed and painted just like anything else. Detailing. And for this armor, the way I have the lights that come through the suit, like you can see here coming through, that's the reason why I tinted it yellow, so that I can use white lights inside, and the light actually is lit from inside and it shines through the armor, through the tinted armor, so it gives it the yellow color. And then basically when I paint it, everywhere where the light's coming through, all the details, I'll mask off. I'll take a little bit of latex rubber and I paint it over the areas that are to be lit, and then I paint it, and then I go back and I peel the rubber off, and it leaves the exposed yellow area underneath of it. And so basically that gets sanded and painted and ends up looking kind of like this, sort of, when it's done. And I used basically just a black primer on it, and then I dusted all of it with a nickel silver. Let me see the exact color here. Is this it? Yeah. I primed it all in black, and then I used the Krylon Fusion paint. It's a nickel shimmer, which basically I just hold it about 12 to 14 inches away, and I just dusted it really lightly, so just the metal flake would just kind of float and stick to the black. So that gives it kind of a nice, kind of a metallic, but not sort of a steel kind of gray color, which is pretty close to what the actual character is. Closest I could find. I tried probably about 5 or 6 different silvers before I found the one that I liked the best. And then for sealing, I just use like a Krylon clear coat to seal it. 2 or 3 layers of a satin finish, real light dust on it. In the helmets, these lights are a little bit different. I'll go over the lighting too that I used in it. I used 2 different types of LEDs, all of which are linked on my pages. I got them all from superbrightleds.com. Let me pull some out and show you what they look like in the raw state here. Okay, now in the helmet I couldn't use the super bright ones because basically I'd be blind inside there. So the ones inside the helmet are like these. Let me see if I gotta open one. Oh, okay, let me open this one up and show you. These are the lights in the helmets. Hey, kitty! Come on, get out of here, dude. Get. It's in a box for you. The lights in the helmet actually are tinted yellow, and they come in a big spool, and they're waterproofed, which means that every single LED is encased in a little silicone jacket. so that way that no matter how much I sweat on them, they won't electrocute me or short out. So let me see if I get this close to the camera. You can see they're sort of like a little string of ammunition or bullets. They're encased in silicone, and they're completely flexible and bend any direction you need, just about. And these are not super bright. They put out a decent amount of light. Like I said, they're already tinted yellow. The light itself is yellow, so that helped with the coloring, because a lot of light cast out of the helmet, so I wanted that not to be like a raw white color, because that wouldn't look right. So I wanted it to be an orangish yellow, so I went with the tinted ones in the helmet. And you can see the way I put them in the helmet, I just kind of coiled and snaked them in there. See if you can actually see this inside. There's pictures of it on my, better pictures probably on my Facebook page that show it. But the lights are kind of coiled inside of there and wrapped around, snaked inside. And I basically used little pieces of wire that I bent into little retainer shapes. And then I tacked them in with a little bit of hot glue. But hot glue won't stick to silicone at all. So I use that to tack it in place and hold it long enough for the E6000 that I used on it to really hold it. So I just basically coated E6000 all over it, which is a nice rubbery, flexible, clear adhesive, which you can get at most craft stores and hardware stores. And I use that to actually anchor them into here, into the helmet. For the eyes were a last minute thing. I actually did these at the convention. Initially, I had tried casting different lenses out of different plastics. They're Jane's here. Casting different lenses out of plastic, but I couldn't get them to maintain, to be clear enough to where I could actually see through them. They were always a little bit warped, a little bit blurry. So for the eyes, what I ended up doing was, on the way to DragonCon, we stopped at a gas station, and I bought a $5 pair of sunglasses for $20. A $20 pair of $5 sunglasses, and basically they're with the sort of the mirror lenses on them. And I just basically cut them out and just glued them inside there, and they work pretty good. You know, it kind of gives a reflective surface. It's the right color. You can see my eyes a little bit, but it worked okay for being last minute. And in the body of the suit, I used a different type of LED, which are the brightest ones they carry, and they just come on a flat strip like this. It's basically a flat ribbon of lights, LEDs in there. And these can be cut to any length, and basically they're wired together, and that's what runs. This is mostly what runs all through the suit. And I was under a time crunch because most of the lighting got done at the convention. Mm-hmm. So I did it really quick and sloppy, and I can show you
He did it. Like. He spent all day Friday in the hotel room doing it.
Yeah, most of Thursday and all day Friday in the hotel room. And I don't have any really open surface ones here.
No, I don't think you do.
They're all on the suit there. But basically what I ended up doing was cutting and wiring the pieces, and then duct tape. It's basically all the lighting on the suit is duct taped into the suit. I just straight up put it in the right position, slapped duct tape on it, and called it finished. And it worked really good. I mean, I'll probably go back and, you know, make sure that it's done really properly and really fit them in there good. It definitely helps to have supportive wives, significant others, and cats. Yes, that definitely that definitely makes it easier. And like I said, this was done quick and dirty because I just had to get it done in time to take it to the show. So
it was very stressful. Let's put
yeah,
that way.
Yeah, it was pretty stressful. So all the wiring and all the lighting and all was pretty much duct taped in, which I have to say worked really, really well for as crappy as it was done. And these spools can be pretty expensive depending on the type. I think a spool of this, which has 196, these cost about, I think these were like 120 bucks a roll. And I think I used almost a whole roll in the helmet. And then the body, this one I used like, I want to say I used like 4 or 5 rolls of these, and these were like about 160, 180. for a roll. Some, I don't know, the prices vary. They're on the site. You can find them. But they have different grades, different colors, different sizes.
Yeah, lighting was a significant part of the budget.
Yeah. And for the dimming stuff, all the dimming, it's actually basically inline controllers that you can buy right on their site, which I think I have linked all the different specifications to all the stuff. But they're basically these little inline control units that were like $6 a piece. Pretty cheap and really, really nice for the price and what they are. And it's just a real simple unit here that wires right into the wire, right in line. And you can see it's got 3 switches on it: a mode switch, a speed brightness switch, and a light switch on it. Basically, you can control how fast it strobes, how strong the strobe is, the duration. It's got different settings where it can go fast or slow, or different types of flickering effects, things like that. But they have more advanced controllers. They've got wireless controllers. They've got, as far as high-end as you want to go. They got stuff that can wire into your iPhone and your iPad to control it and all that stuff. But these work pretty nice. And I got the whole suit wired through like 2 of those. So I wanted to keep it so that the whole suit would kind of strobe at the same time. So I had to run the whole suit.
Yeah, sometimes they got off.
Yeah, there's actually
you had to turn it on and off to get it to reinitiate.
Let's see, how heavy is the suit? Altogether, I'd say the suit probably
50 pounds.
weighs about 50 to 60 pounds, roughly. It's not super heavy, not as heavy as it looks.
Most of the weight is on his shoulders and his neck, which is, once that part goes on, it's very problematic because he can't really do a lot of bending and stretching, or else it'll go right into his throat. That was a problem that we had.
I forget what I was talking about.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, so, and the lighting, the batteries, the whole thing runs on 16 AA's. The whole suit runs on 16 AA's. In the back, there's 2 battery packs that look similar to this. They look just like this. Just a little 8 AA battery pack with a little connector lead on the end of it. And there's 2 of these jumped together in line. And they powered the whole suit. And like I said, those are the same batteries. It lasted probably, I don't know, I'd say they lasted probably a good 6-8 hours total before you have to change the batteries in these. And the battery pack's probably one of the heaviest parts of the suit, just the batteries themselves. Okay, so the electronics I kept pretty simple, pretty straightforward. And let's see, for the some of the softer parts of the suit, like I was talking earlier, the actual undersuit that all this mounts on to give me the bulk in the chest, that's done out of green upholstery foam, just regular 1-inch thick upholstery foam. And the muscle, this kind of muscle detail stuff here, this is all Foamy's craft foam, 1/4-inch craft foam, EVA foam. For some of the soft parts, like the hands, which are going to have to be recasted because they got a little bit tore up in the process of using them. But this is out of Flex Foamit 3, also from Smooth On. This is also from Smooth On product. It's basically, it turns into sort of like upholstery foam almost when it sets. It's a little bit firmer. And this is a little bit more difficult, not quite as difficult to mix, but it's a 2-to-1 ratio. And you got to be quick. You got to be really quick because this stuff, you mix the stuff together, and within probably 15 to 20 seconds of mixing it, it begins to expand. So you've got about 15-20 seconds to mix it really fast, dump it in the molds really fast, and then it starts to go nuts and expand. This is the same stuff a lot of times you see on Face Off. It's similar to the polyfoam they always talk about, using polyfoam, because it's really quick, it sets really quick. About 45 minutes to an hour, it can come out of the molds and ready to be painted and used. It's only got certain applications. It's not good for everything, but it's really quick for doing stuff really, really fast. And it works really good for the hands. For the hands, there's more detail on my page. It shows how I did it, how I made them. I took some CFX hand forms that I bought online from CFX Composite Effects Industries, which they make a lot of silicone masks, a lot of Halloween type masks and stuff. And I basically took a pair of their generic hand forms and I cut them up and modified them to make a collapsible core. Well, this is the finger from the wrong hand, but you get the idea. To make a collapsible core hand to sculpt and mold on. And you can see that I got a separate video that shows and explains why I did this and the benefits of doing this and what it's for. But that's what I used to make the hands basically. Here's one of the prototype hands I did. I first did a test one that I did test paints and test glues and all that stuff, because you never want to use your final ones to do your stuff. You always make a test one. And even the test one came out really good, so it's pretty easy to work with.
One thing about it is it does tend, if it's got mistakes in it when you first pull it out of the mold, if you just leave it alone and just let it sit for a while, it'll start to kind of fill itself out like naturally. So anything that looks kind of wonky might end up actually looking fine within a couple of days.
You can see where it's been packed in the box and StrataCon. The fingers are a little bit curved and bent, but if I let it set here for a day or two without anything in it, it'll actually twist back into shape. So let's see. Any fans in the helmet or back section? No, I did not put any vents or fans in it. I did not. It would definitely help and make it cooler, but overall the suit wasn't really super hot. It wasn't too bad. And the helmet is really too form-fitting to put any fans. Now there is a good place in the back of the collar, which I thought about. I might mount a fan or something and blow air up into the helmet on the back of my neck. That could probably work. Again, these are things that you don't do right away, that you add to the suit as time goes on to make it better and more comfortable. So I probably will put some vents or fans or cooling system of some sort in it to help extend the amount of time I can wear it. Okay, Skinny and Popular, will you be uploading this to your Google Hangouts on YouTube by using this Google Hangouts? Yeah, I'm recording this now, so I probably will upload this to my YouTube. Originally, I was planning on doing this as a live event on YouTube, and I spent most of the day all setting it up and getting it ready, but something about YouTube is just a pain. It's like the quality is really low and the difficulty is really high. I mean, I went through all kinds of changing settings and codecs and doing all kinds of stuff to try to make the stream look good, and no matter how I set it, it just didn't look good to me. It was all laggy, and it just wasn't very good quality. So basically, I'm doing it here on Ustream, which is pretty much idiot-proof and easy to work with, and I've used it a long time. So I'm recording it now, and I'll download and then re-upload the video to my YouTube channel too. So it'll be there. That's what I've done. A lot of my other videos that are on my YouTube channel now are ones that I actually captured from Ustream and just transferred over and uploaded. Okay, so let's see.
We can talk about your foot.
What else? Oh yeah, well the foot. That's not a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean all the different details about how I went. You can see a lot of stuff on my Facebook page about how I put stuff together, like the feet that I made. Basically took some nice women's platform shoes with some 6-inch heels and put some foam on top of them, make them nice. These are the most comfortable shoes of any costume I've ever had. And the toes are on a metal kind of hinge thing here to let them bend so that when I walk they would flex, which this was good and bad because at times it flexed the wrong way and
that's why I broke the toe
snapped off. But yeah, it's easy to repair. It's easy to fix these pieces.
He's gonna have to recast that whole foot. That's why you have molds.
Yeah. And let's see. I'm trying to think if there's anything else really. The paint I used on it, like I said, it was rushed on the paint. So most of the paint is just rattle canned. Like I said, the black primer with that nickel silver color. Krylon plastic coat on top of it. For a lot of the red and the fading and stuff in here, a lot of the detail, I used Createx colors. what are my plans for the armor or next rendition of the Didact? Well, like I was saying earlier, of course I'm going to make a lot of refinements to make it easier to get on and off. Just things that make it easier and more comfortable to wear. Maybe some fans and things like that. But for what I plan to do for the next one is the only real update I plan to do or modification is I'm going to make the I'm going to sculpt and do a silicone mask of him without the helmet, of his actual, his skin underneath the head, his raw face. And I'm going to do that for next year to have so I can do it without the helmet and wear the mask on instead. Like I was saying earlier, I'm going to do it so because the side of his head's got these weird things that pulsate on the sides of it, so I'm going to rig it through my nose so when I breathe, they'll actually pulsate. I'll actually be able to make them move and stuff like that. So, that kind of thing. I'm trying to make it as easy as I can. I'm going to try to make it a one-piece, like the CFX mask. It's going to be like a one-piece silicone deal that just slides on over my head. It's not going to be a complex makeup application. So, it's going to be a little bit more difficult to do it that way, but a lot easier in the end to do it that way. So, other than that, and just clean it up, and I'll probably, so a lot of this armor, I mean, it looks good, but the majority of it, I didn't even have time to sand it, because I got in a time crunch. So, like, I poured it in the molds, it came out of the molds, and it got right to painting. There was no sanding or anything. So, you can see in some of the pictures, like on the shoulders, you can see they're a little rough, they're not quite as smooth as they should or could be. So, I mean, I may recast the whole suit, make all the new parts, and then actually take the time that it deserves and really sand it and get it really smooth. Get a nice, good, smooth finish on all of it, and then paint it. And then it'll improve it. It'll look a lot nicer then. So, I mean, as good as it looks now, it can look a lot nicer if I actually went through the steps I should have gone through. So I skipped so many steps putting this together. So that's I like to go back and just really do it the way it should have been done. Yeah, the mask will definitely add a little bit of heat to it. But at the same time, it may be cooler because, I mean, I'm not breathing in my own hot, stank breath of whatever I drank or ate the night before. That's always the downside of wearing a helmet. You have to be careful what you eat or drink the night before because you're burping or whatever, and that's in the mask with you. It's in your helmet with you, so you got to be conscious of that. So, let me see. Let's think if there's anything else. I think that about covers most of it. Most of the basic stuff. Oh, the acrylic rods and stuff. The suspension of the shoulders. I designed basically because these parts float up at the top, and they're supposed to float without anything being there. So what I did was,
don't break it.
Yeah, it'll probably fall off on the floor. Break. I designed a piece that slides in here using 3/4 inch acrylic rods that it's built on. Okay, it's built on. I don't know if you can see there, and it's you can see it up close, but at a distance, like in the photographs and stuff, it really disappears. And that's what all those photographs that I have for Brian Humphreys, all the ones that were taken at Dragon Con in the pictures folder, those are those are not photoshopped at all. There's not a single bit of Photoshop on any of those photographs. Those are raw photos straight out of the camera. He took them, put them on his card drive, and then I got them and uploaded them. I haven't retouched them or touched them or anything. All the ones that people say I'm an action figure or whatever, or Photoshop, there's not a single bit of Photoshop editing on any of those photos. So, that's a credit to his photography. It's really nice. They came out really exceptionally good. So, but yeah, I built this handlebar system that basically fits around the back of the collar piece, and it slides into these. Basically, I took pieces of PVC and mounted them, actually plastic welded them into the pieces of the shoulder armor, and it fits around the back of the collar and then slides into them, while this piece slides up into the collar. And there's a little screw hole here, and on the inside of the collar there's a little screw where I pull that inside collar piece out, and I can take a screwdriver and I screw it in, and the pin holds it in place so it doesn't slide out or fall out. And then it just kind of keeps it all positioned and stable, and it's transparent so you really can't see it unless you're really up close. And I probably want to go back and put lighting into these shoulder pieces too, because that's one thing I didn't have time to do, was to put lighting in them. So I'll probably add lighting to these so they match the rest of the suit and light up like it does. And there's a few other places I like to add more lighting to it, just, you know, to overall make it cooler. Let's see, what else? Basic sculpting lessons. Well, I mean, there's certain things, you know, that I could tell you or teach you, but most of sculpting comes from just practice. You know, it's like drawing or painting or whatever. You just have to practice. Just keep working at it. Keep doing it.
To Stan Winston Studios.
Yeah, just keep working at it over and over. Yeah, I mean, if you're really serious,
really awesome.
If you're really serious, like a career, and you don't have the time or the ability to go take classes, you know, go to like Tom Savini School or whatever different schools there are. There's the online ones, the Stan Winston School. Really, really good videos. Really great. I haven't seen many of them, but the ones I've seen are really, really good. Like there's one like Steve Wang, who's one of my idols because the guy I've been a fan of Steve for a long time. He'll like sit down with a raw head form and some clay, and he'll just start going, and it'll be like a 6-hour-long video. You know, it's showing sculpting the whole thing from beginning to end. And so it's really good, and he's talking the whole time, explaining it. Those are really, really, really good videos. If you want to pay for the course, it's really good. Yeah, kitty. The first thing you need is cat hair and everything. That's the first thing you need. Yeah. Yeah, that's one thing that this is a lot easier than working with Bondo and stuff, because there's not, like, if you get your sculpt really refined, you spend a little bit of time on the sculpt getting it nice and smooth and just right. But if you get it good enough, then you don't have to do any patching. Like on this helmet, which I did take the time to sand before I painted it, I did not have to patch. I mean, there's a few tiny little dings or whatever little places in it, but not enough to where it warranted going and patching and putting Bondo and sanding and putting in sanding and patching and sanding. None of that in it. None of this. I didn't have to do any of that on any of the suit. Nowhere on the suit did I have to do any Bondo patch and sand. So you spend more time on the front end doing the sculpt, but less time in the headache of sanding and all that nastiness. So there's definitely advantages to it. It's more expensive to do it this way. Definitely more expensive to do it this way. But it's, you know, it shows on a lot of it if you do it right. So I think that's about all I can think of to talk about. I'm sure there's probably more. But like I said, I've got hours and hours of raw footage from where I was making the suit on my YouTube and my Ustream channels. If you want to sit there and go through it for hours and hours and hours of me doing this stuff, you can see how most of it was done. And there's also my Facebook pages, which has all the information and stuff on it. And if you have any other questions, you can always, yeah, girlfriend hair to contend with. I've got my own hair to contend with. So yeah, if you have any questions or anything, you can always put it in the comments from the video, and I'll try to answer it. Or you can email me or message me on Facebook. I'm notoriously bad about answering my emails and messages, so be patient, and eventually I'll try to answer it. So the best way to do it is comment sections. I try to answer those a little bit more frequently than anything else. But if anybody else has any more questions, if not, I'm gonna stop the record here, and I'll try to have this uploaded sometime tomorrow or maybe later tonight. Even depends on how long it takes it to process. But that's about all I can think of to ramble on about. So I will end it here. And I thank everybody for watching. And don't forget to like my Facebook pages and all that nonsense that everybody says at the end of their videos. And thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.